What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Drew and Chase Side by Side. We are coming to you from San Diego, California. I'm Drew.
And I'm Chase.
And this is a musical podcast where we randomly select a year. We each pick an album from that year and we put them up side by side. We see what we like, dislike, any similarities or differences. So, Chase, what do we got today?
So for the first album, it's going to be the second album by Foo Fighters, The Color and the Shape. And then the one going up next to that is Ween's The Mollusk.
Yeah, I didn't even know how to pronounce that, honestly. And the year was 97.
1997, yep.
Yeah. So we'll get into it. We'll start out with Foo Fighters. That was the album I picked. I am not too familiar with them. I am aware of Dave Grohl and him being the drummer from Nirvana, but I didn't know much about them. And listening to this album, I mean, obviously they had their singles, so I recognized those, like Everlong and My Hero. So those were obviously some standout ones to me. But I thought this was a pretty solid album. It had a really good sound. It had kind of a good build up and breakdown, like kind of throughout the whole album.
Yeah, it's like the post-grunge new alternative. And I think it kind of captures and touches on a lot of kind of those other alternative genres. So it has like touches of like the Nirvana elements. It has some REM sounding stuff. It has some like post-hardcore, some Britpop. Like I think it covers a lot of different genres within alternative, and it doesn't dive too deep into one direction, and I think that's what kind of makes it like interesting to listen to throughout. It's not just one sound. They're like just writing 12 songs in this style, and I think that's a interesting like perspective. And I haven't followed their career at all. I've listened to Sonic Highways, which came out a handful of years ago now, but they've kind of created a more formulaic sound that's not, I don't feel like, as exciting and as interesting as this one was. As
what this was. Yeah, I thought this was a really strong album. Yeah, it had, like you said, a good mixture of genres kind of molded into one kind of sound that kind of brought you on this journey throughout the album, kind of. I mean, there was like a couple that just didn't do much for me, but overall it was a pretty strong album. I mean, Enough Space was one of those that kind of really didn't do it for me. I like how it started, but I just didn't quite really grasp or understand it, I guess. Walking After You was another one where I liked certain moments of it, but it was just one that kind of
dragged on.
Yeah, it didn't really do much for me.
I agree.
Yeah.
I thought the intro was a little dull.
I like that. I like that sound.
Yeah.
Like that, it kind of had a creepy, kind of weird, interesting undertone thing. I liked it, but I could kind of see how it definitely wasn't like a strong suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought the Monkey Wrench really starts the album strong.
Yeah.
That's such a great song, and like this whole album is about like kind of the disillusion of his prior marriage or whatever, and you hear that throughout the album,
the whole album,
and it really starts there, even though he kind of reflects and gets introspective on different parts. This song, he's like, you know, this happened, and like I don't want to be used anymore. Like I want to like be my own person, have my own ideas, and be my own thing. Another one I wanted to touch on was Wind Up, because I don't know if you caught this, but he says the line like, I want a song like Manimal, and that's a Germs reference. Which is interesting because Pat Smear was the guitar player of the Germs and is in Foo Fighters.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it's kind of like a nod
Yeah.
to that. But it just got me thinking. I'm like, because Pat Smear joined Nirvana at the end of like after In Utero, he came on to tour with them and stuff, and he's in the like Unplugged in New York and stuff, and it just got me thinking. I'm like, first he dealt with Darby Crash killing himself, and then Kurt Cobain. It's like, poor guy just wants to be in a band, and like his singers keep killing themselves or whatever.
That's rough.
So it's just I like that it was kind of a nod to that, or at least that's how I understood it.
Yeah.
And I used to love that song Manimal. It was like one of my favorite Germs songs. So I thought that was a cool little touch that they threw in there. And then the next song, Up in Arms, I really like that. It started off real slow, and then it turned into kind of like a power pop punk sort of song.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was like just a classic sounding, like kind of reminded me of a band, Teenage Fan Club, and like just that kind of like 90s power pop revival that was kind of going on at the time.
Yeah, what did you think about the song See You? Because I think when I was looking up something about that, it seemed like the rest of the band didn't even want that song on the album, and I thought it was one of the strongest. I really enjoyed that song. What was your kind of take on that one?
So when I first heard it, Oasis just popped in my head. I was like, this sounds like Oasis so much, or kind of the whole Britpop thing that was going on in the earlier 90s.
Yeah.
And so I thought it like definitely had the Beatles and all that.
Definitely.
So I definitely like heard that right away, and I was like, this is kind of their attempt at it. So I could see how maybe the other band was like, I don't know, it seems like we're trying to do this maybe. But like I actually did like listening to a couple of times, like the song, like I thought it was fine and good and stuff. So but yeah, I just, when I first heard it, I was like, oh man, this sounds like they're trying to do that. But
I guess that makes sense, but me not really having that understanding of all of that and just kind of taking it in as a piece of art and music, as a album all the way through, it just really stood out because it was so different than the rest. It had a completely different feel to it, but it still was able to kind of fit into it, you know what I mean? And I really enjoyed it, but I did think it was interesting how like the rest of the band or whatever was kind of like, let's not do this or whatever. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
Well, and then sort of the same thing on the song February Stars. I like that song.
I enjoyed that one too.
But it definitely had like echoes of like post-hardcore early emo. Like kind of. And so I could see how it's like maybe the band being like let's try whatever we want to try, like let's be artists, especially Dave Grohl, but it's like it comes off like you're trying to like hit on what's kind of popular happening at the time.
But isn't that touching on kind of what we were talking about at the very, very beginning of this? It has multiple genres infused, so it kind of makes sense that they're working all these different sounds and things out.
Yeah.
If that's kind of the album, I don't know if that was done on purpose or if they were trying to find their sound. This was their only second album as a band, so I don't really know, but
and really their first album as a band. I believe the first Foo Fighters record is mainly just kind of like Dave Grohl. And if you look at the credits for this album, there's some additional members and stuff, but it's basically a 3-piece, and Dave does drums and guitar and vocals, like in the studio obviously and stuff. And then once they probably went on tour, they had to get another drummer. But yeah, so it's still pretty simple, but yeah, I think they were still developing their sound and trying to figure out what they were to become.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like Everlong, that's a great song. That's just...
I wrote that as well. It was a standout to me, and just good storytelling, dealing with a relationship and wanting that sort of connection. And yeah. And then, I mean, you have to give a shout out to My Hero. Like, it just had a big sound, and the message is great with that. It's just kind of pointing out, like, the average, ordinary person can be a hero to somebody. You know?
Exactly.
And I support that message for sure, 100%.
Yeah, not just putting celebrities or whatever as up on a pedestal. Like, anybody can be a hero to someone.
Yeah, so that's my kind of thought. I mean, yeah, there wasn't much that I didn't like about the album. It was a pretty good introduction into them as a band, and yeah, I haven't even listened to them recently, so I don't really know their progression. I'm sure there's been songs on the radio that I would recognize, but I couldn't pick it out now. But this was I thought it was a really good album all the way through.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because coming off the heels of Nirvana or whatever, like I was almost afraid that it was gonna be like that. And there are echoes. There are a couple times where I'm like, I hear a lot of that Kurt Cobain.
The first listen, I heard it so much, and then like the second time around, I heard it a little less.
Yeah.
But the first time I was like, oh man, this sounds like Nirvana a lot, you know?
Yeah, because, I mean, obviously it was a popular sound, and like we said in the Nirvana one, the Pixies kind of started the whole loud, quiet dynamic, and he definitely uses that here a couple times. Yeah. Especially on the last track, which is kind of a goof track. It's just that, like, kind of, it totally reminds me of, like, an ending track on a Nirvana album or a B-side or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you hear it a couple times throughout the album, but overall, I think it is them trying to find their own sound and not just trying to, like,
stick to one thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I liked it. So why don't you introduce this next album and get us into this one?
So yeah, this is another album that it's their 6th studio album, and this was the first and really the only album I've really dug into. I like the one after it, but the Mollusk by Ween is I don't even know what to say about it. It is just I want to get what was your initial reaction?
So when you first told me, because we initially were going to do a different album, but there was some technical difficulties on my end, and so we had to do a audible and switch it up, and then he presented this album, and right when he told me it, I turned it on, and I was like, what is this? This is just completely out there. And it didn't stop from the first song. It just kept getting, not necessarily weirder, but just all these different experimental sounds, and they really knew how to encapsulate this like nautical ocean pirate feel and folk feel,
lucid
and
dreaming, kind of like
drug acid trip, and it was really all over the place. And the only thing, I couldn't say there's a bad song because I've never really heard anything like this before. It is so unique, and I couldn't really say that there's a bad song. Again, there's like a couple songs on there that just don't resonate with me, just because one, I don't understand the story they're telling or what they're trying to say, or if it's an old folk song like we'll get into, you know, but like I don't really know, but they knew what they were doing.
Yeah. The two, I'll just say it, the two that are whatever to me are I'll Be Your Johnny on the Spot and Waving My Dick in the Wind. Yeah. Those two songs almost have a similar vibe to them too. They're both like that fast kind of but I love the guitar solo on Johnny on the Spot. It's just got that like flanger sound, and it's just that like real like twangy kind of guitar solo and stuff. So even within that, like it's still the instrumentation and just how they created sounds and textures and different things throughout this album, incorporating a recurring nautical ocean theme. Mutilated Lips, I want to touch on that.
That one's a trip, man.
Man, it's such an acid trip song, like tentacles expanding in your mind, just like taking you through this kind of lucid acid trip and stuff. And I really like how they bring you like the visuals, like it's just like they take you there with you out without having to do acid.
You can feel it for sure based on like how they start the chorus like initially with like a normal voice, and then they repeat it with this filtered like weird like treble type voice thing that definitely makes you feel tripped out.
Yeah, they probably have like a pedal or something because there's two singers.
Okay.
Dean and Gene Ween.
Yeah.
So
very interesting.
And that's originally how they started. It was just a 2-piece and like a cassette like that had beats in the background, and they would just like play guitar and stuff and sing. But they started incorporating more instrumentation and like a bigger sound and a producer and all that stuff. And I think I read they went up and recorded on like the Jersey Shore in winter or something. So they were like kind of abandoned and kind of like had the beach to themselves, which makes sense. It was probably dark, gloomy, and that kind of vibe runs through.
Definitely. That makes sense.
But then, like, I like the next one, the Blarney Stone, a lot because it's just like a pirate shanty, like, folklore telling song where it's just like grab a pint, slam it down.
Dude, it's so crazy how they can a sound can put you in that spot.
Yeah, like total Pirates of the Caribbean,
That's the exact picture I got, is just chilling in the pub with your pint glass swinging, you know? It's like, how can a song and a sound encapsulate that feeling? It's crazy, but they know how to do it. And I mean, it's obviously not new, but that's an interesting thing for sure. How did you like how it started with that song? What was it? I'm Dancing in the Show Tonight?
Yeah, it's just a bizarre intro to the album.
It has like a kid's feel to it.
You're like, what am I getting myself into?
Yeah, it's a strange one, but it really set the tone, that's for sure. It like had this weird feel, weird, creepy kids feel, but I liked it. I like, for some reason it stuck out for whatever reason. I liked that one a lot. I liked It's Gonna Be All Right.
Yeah, that was a bizarre kind of, in the middle of the album they actually kind of give you somewhat of a normal song.
A real regular. I said on my notes, it's like, I think I like this more because it had like kind of a regular structure to it, and had something more so I can grasp and relate to, you know?
Yeah, it's just about like a relationship. Like, it's a depressing kind of song, but it's weird to say that one stands out on this album.
Exactly.
Because it's so normal, though, I guess.
Yeah.
It just makes it like come through. It's really a beautiful song in my opinion.
No, it's a really good song. And then I really like Cold Blows the Wind. And I like the story of this, how they just, one of the singers or whatever had this old 17th century folk song book, and they just came across it, had no idea how it was supposed to sound, made up the chords and how they thought it was supposed to go, or like made it their own. And I thought it really stood out. Yeah, again, it's something I can't relate to or even fully grasp, but I mean, I thought they did it really well.
Yeah, definitely. And then the next one after, the weird instrumental with dog barky.
Yeah, that was
I like the instrumental and stuff, but when I was listening to it, I forgot about the dog.
Yeah,
and I was like,
what is that?
I was like, is there a dog outside? And then I was like, oh no, yeah, that's right. And then he just goes at the end, like makes weird grunts or whatever. Interesting, like we said, textures and sounds throughout the whole thing. And then, how the album kind of closes out is really strong. Buckingham Green, I really like that one. It's got, like, just, I don't know, a good feel to it, in my opinion.
That's what I said. It has a good feel, but I couldn't even describe how it really sounds.
Yeah, or, what it's really about. But, I like the sound of that one.
And that's what I said. I don't even know what the story is about. But it had, like, this good feel to it. Yeah.
And then it leads you into
Ocean Man, the catchiest song on the album, in my opinion. It just won't go out of my head.
Yeah, this is the first song I heard by Ween, And this was the song that got me even interested in this album a couple years ago. And I was just like, yeah, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, I've never heard anything like this before. And it's like, obviously he's like telling the story of the like creature of the Black Lagoon or whatever, you know, a creature from the ocean.
Yeah.
But they just make it so catchy and so
catchy.
like it just sticks with you. It's it's great.
It's interesting when I was looking it up. SpongeBob SquarePants the movie used the song, or it's credited in there for some reason. It's been a really long time since I've seen that movie, so maybe going back, I would have to watch it and look out for it, you know? That'd be kind of an interesting thing. But you had mentioned that this band was kind of a big influence for the creator of SpongeBob.
Yeah, I guess the creator of SpongeBob, I forget his name, but he was an actual marine biologist and stuff. And he contacted them after listening to this album and was like, I want to create this show about, you know, life on the seafloor. And like, either wanted to have them create a song for him or like use some of their music for it or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they actually ended up writing, I think, Loop De Loop or something for the show.
Yeah, they were actually used again in the actual show, but I do believe Ocean Man was credited in the movie.
And then the way the album closes out, She Wanted to Leave, it's kind of like kind of a heartbreaking song too, about just like, being on
in the theme of the pirate.
Yeah, exactly. Like 3 pirates jump aboard the ship and steal his girl, and then he kind of turns to alcohol in the end, and he's like, I'm not the man I was, like since she left, kind of thing. And it's just like, it's relatable, but it's still, like you're saying, in that theme of the nautical pirate world and stuff. So
and then I liked how it ended, where it kind of faded out and then kind of faded back in the first song,
the intro,
intro and instrumental, but kind of in was it a different way? I think it was they did a little different. And I thought that was done really well, and it kind of brought it all back together full circle.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, again, this was a completely unique album. I have never heard anything like it. I don't know what the rest of their sound is, if it's similar to this or if this was more of a conceptual album. But this one, it was good. Like I said, I couldn't really pick a bad song because, I mean, it was all just so unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of... I know we usually try and find similarities. It's kind of hard to find any similarities to this Ween album because it is just, it's its own thing. And
definitely,
it's, I don't know. I'm sure there's been other people trying to replicate something like it since it came out, but I'm not aware of it.
Yeah.
And no, they're not the first progressive experimental band by any means, but they kind of just captured something that at that time in 97, when I guess more alternative rock was in the direction of Foo Fighters and kind of turning towards like I don't know, boy bands were starting to become more popular. Yeah. For this to come out then, it was definitely like probably looked at as like, oh, this is some drugged out weird sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But Ween's kept going, and they're like, this album's like held up, and like I was saying, in 2017 I wanted to go see them perform this album in its entirety, but they just weren't playing it anywhere close enough for me to travel to. So
well, I mean, I guess the only thing we could really say is they're both still doing it. They're still both creating and still doing music, and nobody's touring right now, but I'm sure each of these bands will be again once all of this is over. So I mean, there wasn't really too much of a connection that could be made on the album, but both of these bands are still going. So
definitely, it'll be I definitely want to check out more of Ween's back catalog, like I said, I've listened to a little bit of the one that comes after this one. But yeah, to go back and kind of see how they got there, and then see kind of what they've done more even after that. So yeah, it'll be cool. Same thing with the Foo Fighters. I definitely want to go check out their debut, and then yeah, kind of just like get a greatest hits, see what else they've put out that's good, and then kind of
because you said you had listened to their
Sonic Highways.
Recent.
Yeah, that came out a couple of years ago, but I think they've released another album since.
Something since.
And
yeah.
Sonic Highways, they did like a documentary with, and it was kind of like he went to different studios.
That was that.
And recorded with a bunch of different like
I remember watching
sounds
that.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of, I guess it makes sense. Like he does something in DC that's a little bit more like punky. Then he does something in LA. Like I think he.
So he's still very experimental.
Yeah.
So I guess that it kind of fits. The whole even
experimenting
from this,
with sounds and stuff for sure. Yeah.
So yeah, that's that. I kind of forgot that documentary thing came out, and that was him, because I guess that would be the most recent memory of
Foo Fighters. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, that's very cool. I enjoyed both albums. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on, or
no? I think I'm good.
We're all good. So all right, everybody, we will see you next time. Peace.
Later.